Oh, it's time once again. This is going to be my new theme song. Wendy O. Williams. Yes, as that unmistakable music indicates, I'm back on here, everybody. Marky Billson talking to you about sports, and of course the Tennessee Volunteers. Been listening to a lot of the talk shows around East Tennessee. First of all, a couple of a bit of exciting news. First of all, I will be covering the Tennessee BYU football game for the Salt Lake newspaper, Salt Lake City newspaper, the Salt Lake Tribune. They need a stringer because it's a lot of money to send somebody from Salt Lake City all the way to Knoxville. So I will be covering the BYU Tennessee football game for the Salt Lake Tribune. So look for my game story on Sunday. Also, want to thank the guys down at ETSU, certainly my friend Jay Sandos, the voice of the Bucks, but also the football coach Randy Sanders, as well as former athletic director Richard Sander, who I saw out and about today, and both were really, hey, what can we do for you? All of this. We know you got the shaft at 1420 and so on and so forth. So thanks, guys. And that really is nice. But then again, you got to stay objective here. But objectively, I really appreciate that. Okay, let's talk about a few things that I'm listening to. First of all, I want to give a lot of credit to my friend and frequent guest on Tri-City Sports Now, SoCon John Hooper, because SoCon John Hooper was always high on Georgia State coach Sean Elliott. He always was telling me South Carolina, they should have kept him. I'm like, SoCon, he was 1-5 at South Carolina. I mean, how much romanticism can you get? No, look what he's going to do at Georgia State. SoCon John is 2-10 last year at Georgia State. No, watch him. Now, Caleb Calhoun, another frequent guest on my sports talk show, is championing Elliott as a possible future Vols coach. I don't know what that means, that somebody who couldn't make it at South Carolina is now being talked about in Tennessee media as a potential replacement for Jeremy Pruitt. But times are right now tough. 0-12 is on the table, folks. And that's really hard for Tennessee fans to believe. I'm not saying they will go 0-12. I don't think that they will. I mean, I don't know if any team is going to go 0-12 this year. Come on. In the FBS. But there's a legitimate chance. Because remember, Chattanooga will have the quarterback advantage on Tennessee. And if Tennessee can't get past that. All right. So we're looking at that. Just a couple of things, though. You might wonder, why would Tennessee media be thinking of a 1-5 coach from South Carolina, which, of course, used to be the whipping boy of the Tennessee Volunteers. They didn't lose them from 1993 up until, I remember, Spurrier got them in 2005. But between, 1993 and 2004, there were some close calls. But Lou Holtz never beat the Volunteers, at least not with South Carolina. Certainly, Sparky Woods and Brad Scott and the, joke coaches that South Carolina had for a while. Sparky Woods did beat him in 92. He did beat the famous 24-23 game down in Columbia, which really, started some of the legend of Steve Tannehill. That was a Woods victory over Tennessee, but none from 92 to 2005. Let's put it that way. And now it's basically been even Steven, with the Gamecocks taking the last three from Tennessee. But I say, why would you look at such a person as a Sean Elliott, failed Gamecocks coach? Well, how about this? I'm watching a coach's show, whatever they call it, Jeremy Pruitt show or the Orange and White Report or whatever they call the Tennessee coach's show on Sunday. And they're showing, the highlights, all positive highlights, as you know. And from a loss to Georgia State where they gave up nearly 40 points, all positive highlights certainly for Tennessee and all this. And early on, Jeremy Pruitt is calling a fumble an interception. All right, I mean, technically the ball is just caught and then stripped away, but still, it's things like that where you start saying, did Tennessee just hire a year ago Coach Dumb? One thing that I've thought of is that Tennessee has a very highly paid football coaching staff. And of course, there was a lot of people who were upset that Jim Chaney's play calling, the new offensive coordinator, same as the old offensive coordinator. I mean, one game, come on, it's a little bit too soon to go hog wild, yay or nay. But let me just say this. If this staff does not produce this year, if it's yet another losing record, you've got to wonder if Tennessee is going to continue to try to pay assistant coaches the way they have. Chaney is the highest paid offensive coordinator in the history of college football at $1.6 million a year. And if all that's going to do is go 5-7, I doubt Tennessee is going to pay it. Tennessee right now, they've got all the money coming in. It's one of the more profitable programs in the country. But yet, when it comes time to pay the football coach, Pruitt and other Tennessee coaches are paid more in line with their peers, certainly in the SEC, than let's say what goes on at Alabama or Texas A&M, who are known for paying ahead of what their peers in the SEC do. So, Tennessee this past year when they hired Kelly Harper to be the new basketball coach for the Lady Vols, gave her a salary of $750,000 annually. Well, if you look at her peers, that's about a third of what, let's say, Gino Auriemma makes. I realize Gino Auriemma has earned it, but even you look at, what Louisville's coach makes or something, it's twice what Tennessee is paying the Lady Vols basketball coach. Phil Fulmer very famously has said, look, I'm here to fix the football team. Well, if he's paying the offense coordinator twice what he's paying the women's basketball coach, you get the idea. But if it's not going to work, are they going to continue that? Because, that's sort of the East Tennessee way, kind of thrifty right there. So, say what you will with that. I will say this, people are talking about, Jeremy Pruitt lasts the season. Of course he will. And a couple of things, I've heard, people wondering, well, could Phil Fulmer come in and take over the reins? If he does, Tennessee will never win again. I say, well, right now, I don't know if they'll ever be elite again. But, there will be a year in the future, 10-4 or something like that. 10-4, that would be what? Playing for the SEC championship. That's possible. 9-4, 8-4. The records like that are possible. They won't be if Fulmer would come in, because it would be on an interim basis, A. B, who then would ever come in to coach at Tennessee? This is one of the things I think it was so difficult for Tennessee to find a head coach when Pruitt was hired. Why they went to Greg Schiano is that it's not the job it once was. And so, football coaches see mob says Schiano isn't good enough, and then the NC State coach or the Purdue coach is saying, well, you know what? No, I got a good thing here. Be it Doreen or Brum or whoever, Gundy, they're all saying, thanks, but no thanks. And that was a product of the mob, of the mob coming in and saying no to Schiano. Now, let me ask you this. If Fulmer comes in, what decent coach is going to come in as long as Phil Fulmer is the athletic director? There aren't going to be, because he's going to feel as if he's a puppet. He's going to have somebody looking over his shoulder 24/7. And there's all the pressure where the Tennessee fans say, why isn't it 1998 anymore? When the parameters of college football have changed so that TV revenue is basically made in terms of getting the bills paid. Maybe not profits, but getting the bills paid. They've basically evened the playing field. So the advantages Tennessee once had by having a 100,000-seat football stadium and selling the extra tickets over, say, Kentucky or something, no longer there. Money's coming in from TV. So it may be a little more money, and why, Tennessee is paying it on buyouts for coaches, evidently. But, question, though, is that I've heard some people say, and I'm included with this, well, Tennessee didn't see the Georgia State loss coming. Why didn't they see the Georgia State loss coming? And I got to ask myself this as well. Because this is a program that's won 9 games in 2 years. All of a sudden they're unbeatable? Huh? Admittedly, Georgia State, 2-10 out of the Sun Belt, not much. I said on my talk show last week that I said there were probably 2 games. I said, I just can't see Tennessee losing these again. Anyway, I mean, I could see, Kentucky SEC program, sure, okay, something could happen. UAB, although they did not play all that well, only beating an FCES team by 5 points on opening day. But UAB, since they revived football, they've been pretty good. Like a UAB coming in and beat Tennessee, well, it'd be a long shot, but it could happen. It's possible. You thought Chattanooga and Georgia State were those 2 games that they just weren't going to lose. Well, now losses to everybody. It's on the table. One of the things, though, I did want to say when looking at why this game might have been lost, the indecisiveness of Jeremy Pruitt. Now, I really don't like these people who say, well, you could just see that Tennessee, they weren't playing with intensity or heart. I'm listening to talk shows, and, they want to bring back the Junction Boys for Tennessee and all this. Already 2 players have left the squad today. A defensive back named Harry, and a halfway decent wide receiver who caught more than 10 balls last year, but still not, tremendous losses for Tennessee. But it's the indecisiveness. And maybe this also is a reason why players are transferring. Depth chart for Georgia State did not list a definitive starter at 12 different positions. And that's not including special teams. 22 starting positions, only 10 of them had a definitive starter. Now, if that's what's being released 5 days before the game, can you see where the team would be indecisive against Georgia State? And if you're trying to do that for gamesmanship against Georgia State, please. By the way, if you're trying to do that for gamesmanship against Alabama, stop. It's not about what Alabama does, it's about what you do. It's not about, forget Alabama, it's not about what your opponent does, it's what you do. And so, decide on a starter. Tell your players where they stand. They're transferring now. Not a good look. I do want to say, I think now that we can, when you look at what's going on with Tennessee Volunteers right now, I did think this with Jeremy Pruitt's personality and with the reports that Phil Fulmer was, going to the practices and offering advice. Trust me on this, Pruitt was hired, in my opinion, to be Fulmer's puppet. And now we see what's going on. So, that's the case with the Tennessee Volunteers. Now, perhaps the happiest man in Tennessee that the Vols lost this past weekend was none other than Randy Sanders, because nobody around here is talking about what happened to ETSU, losing by 35 to Appalachian State. Maybe not the sin that losing to Georgia State was for the Vols, I'll give you that. But ETSU didn't cover, and they don't know who their quarterback is going to be against Shorter. Now, Shorter's a D2. They haven't won a game since 2015, which is stunning, but still, it leads us also to wonder, why Shorter? Why not Carson Newman? Why not Mars Hill? Why not an area school around here, which is what I think ETSU should be playing for their tune-up games, so to speak, because I think that sort of reinforces that, hey, we're ETSU and maybe we're FCS, but we're D1. Don't forget that. And for a D2, it's a big deal to come to the stadium that should be named after John Robert Bell, and to have a facility like that to go to, and still being in the, hey, I was a running back and I rushed for 45 yards against ETSU, that sort of thing. And you lose 42-7 there or whatever it is, but the happiest man that Tennessee lost has got to be Randy Sanders, because like I said, nobody paid any attention to the Buccaneers' rather lopsided defeat to Appalachian State. So we'll see how that goes. It's a cupcake, of course, this week for ETSU, and then they go into their Southern Conference schedule with VMI. For Tennessee, BYU has now become a season-defining game. Lose it, I'm not going to say heads will roll, but I said 0-12 is on the table. Certainly the third straight losing season is on the table. Not that it isn't right now, but it becomes a probability if it isn't right now. Beat BYU, and I know how Tennessee fans are going to be. They're going to forget about losing to Georgia State rather quickly. So that's how that goes. Anyway, I'm Marky Billson. Please, I will be covering the Tennessee-BYU game for the Salt Lake City paper, so look for that in the Tribune, Salt Lake Tribune, on Sunday. Very much looking forward and thanking the editorial staff there for the opportunity. Talk to you later. Watch me here on Facebook. And also, this note for everybody else. Please follow my YouTube channel. I'm putting up constant content on there. I may have put up since Saturday more than 200 videos on YouTube. And it's archives of the show, and I think you'll enjoy them. The regular guests, Josh Brown, Jerry Bonkowski, Caleb Calhoun, SoCon John Hooper, etc., but also my own takes, the interviews that I've done over the, author Tom Shanahan and Rail Light comes to mind, but give it a look. And I think you're going to be entertained with content that is still pretty contemporary, only a month or two old. See how it has panned out. I was uploading a lot of stuff on the USWNT, as a matter of fact, here recently. So until then, Marky Billson, thanks for watching, and please follow me not only on Facebook, but also on YouTube.